Hello and welcome to my channel, iWinDeluze Gaming. We finally have our first heterochromia hydro polearm character in Genshin Impact, Candace. Candace appears to be a very unique character, and not just because of those aforementioned traits. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at not just one, but two entire builds for her. So what builds are we going to take a look at in this Constellation Zero Candace showcase? Well, we've got a pure support build and we've got a pure offensive build. For her pure support build, we'll take a look at how much she can boost her teammates' damage, and for her pure offensive build, we'll see how much damage she can put out, as well as a nuke showcase. And I even have a brand new playstyle for you guys, the Sunfire Dragonstrike build. And if you haven't already subscribed, do make this the video that you finally smash the subscribe button, as that's the best way to support my channel. Let's start off with her pure support build, which utilizes an extremely free-to-play friendly weapon, the Black Tassel. The Black Tassel provides a lot of HP percent, which helps boost Candace's supporting capabilities. Her artifacts are just the 2-piece Tenacity of the Millelith and the 2-piece Emblem of Severed Fates for the additional energy regen. She is of course at Constellation 0 throughout this entire video, and her talents are at 8, 9, and 9. I'll talk a bit about talents and builds more at the end of this video, so before you go leveling stuff up, be sure to stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's see how much damage she does like this, or honestly more importantly for a build like this, how her kit works. Her normal attacks, Gleaming Spear, Guardian Stance, are actually quite slow for a polearm user. Her charge attack has her do the typical lunge forward like most polearm characters. Obviously with her current HP build and doing physical damage, her normal attacks aren't going to do really any damage at all. Let's move on to her elemental skill, Sacred Rite, Heron's Sanctum. Her elemental skill can be tapped or held. The damage it deals is based on her max HP, and tapping it appears to generate 2 particles with a 6-second cooldown, while holding it appears to generate 3 particles. Similar to other counter type abilities like Beto's elemental skill, she can guard an attack and it will instantly charge her elemental skill to the hold version. Next, let's take a look at what actually makes her unique. Her elemental burst, Sacred Rite, Wagtail's Tide. Her elemental burst is the only source of hydro infusion from an outside source currently in the game. As we can see, it infuses her own basic attacks with hydro, and it infuses her teammates that use melee weapons with hydro as well. Her elemental burst also sends out a quick hydro shockwave that has no ICD up to 3 times when you swap characters, dealing a bit of damage based on her max HP. Anyway, I don't think any of us care how much a pure HP support build does in terms of damage. Hint, it's pretty much negligible. And don't worry, after the support section, we will take a look at how much a DPS build does. With a build like this though, let's see how much she can amplify her teammates' damage. For this first scenario, I have Kami Boba Ayato with the Blackcliff Longsword and the Gladiators. With Hydro Resonance, now my Candace has 47,627 hit points, which provides Ayato with a total of 43.24% bonus damage thanks to the 20% from her burst and the 0.05% per 1000 HP Candace has. We can see in this frame that Ayato Slash did 12,302 damage without Candace's buff and 15,271 damage with Candace's buff, which is a nice 24.13% increase to Ayato's personal damage. For this next clip, I want to demonstrate a few things about Candace's support capabilities. Now, I'm not recommending you to use Candace with Hu Tao, I'm simply doing this to demonstrate a few points. We can see a few things in this clip. First of all, Candace only buffs normal attack damage. Hu Tao's N1 is doing more damage as we can see, but her charge attack isn't. Also, Candace's burst is not converting Hu Tao's attacks into Hydro. Most characters with self-infusion, or I believe even all of them, they actually overwrite Candace's elemental infusion. So if you're hoping to play a 4000 attack Hydro Noelle, you might be a bit disappointed. So unfortunately, her damage buff is quite limited, but here is a scenario where it actually matters. In this Blackcliff Longsword Ayato run on the left, I do use Candace's burst, and in the run on the right, I don't use Candace's burst. As we can see with Candace's burst, Ayato is able to single cycle the first wave of robots and thus clear this much faster than if he didn't use Candace at all. However, Candace can easily be replaced by one of many characters, but the idea here was to demonstrate how she can be useful with a character like Ayato. So yeah, she's able to do supporty stuff and funky hydro infusion stuff, but how is she as a damage dealer? For this next section, my Candace is now built for DPS, using a Refinement 5 Dragon's Bane and the 4-piece Heart of Depth. Sadly, I'm using an attack sans because I don't have a good onset Elemental Mastery timepiece for the Heart of Depth. Anyway, let's see how much damage she does with this kit. Honestly, that's not too terrible considering she has a lot of room for improvement through her constellations, and she's running a weapon that is meant to be used with Vape. Even at Constellation 0, Candace is able to do over 2/3 the health of the Regisvine with just the help of a single Vape at the beginning. Now that we know that she is capable of doing some non-negligible damage, let's actually use her in a full team. All my characters here are using 4-star weapons for this next showcase against our favorite sleepy giant robot chicken. Seriously, why do we keep harassing giant sleepy critters? Although the Hydro Swirl is awkward to say the least, I was pleasantly surprised that this Candace team was able to single cycle the giant robot chicken. Now of course Xiangling did a lot of damage even with the Favonius Lance that she has equipped, but Candace definitely pulled her weight with her 87,654 damage vapes. So is DPS Candace viable in Abyss 12? Well, let's at least try her out in just 12.1.1 to get a rough idea. I only did this run a couple of times, so you'll have to excuse what happens at the end of this run. Yeah, that's right, I somehow managed to die, but regardless, this Candace Xiangling team still managed to complete 12.1.1 in a very reasonable 61 seconds on my second try. I was actually very impressed by that. And just for fun, let's also push her Constellation 0 damage to the limit by slapping on some whale gear on my supports, aka literally just the Elegy for the End on Yelan, because nothing else on these characters really buffs her HP scaling damage. But yeah, now this is with an HP % focus build instead of an attack % focus build because her elemental skill has a pretty big multiplier based on her HP. She managed to nuke for 343,394 damage. While certainly not pragmatic, it is fun to see her accomplish this, and with a Dragon's Bane, which is a 4-star weapon to boot. One last fun little showcase is the insanely epically named Sunfire Dragonstrike Diluc. With Hydro Infusion on Diluc's monstrous plunge multipliers, and with Sunfire Gene's Constellation 2 to enable Dragonstrike as well as to constantly apply Pyro onto our Primo Geovishap friend, Diluc is doing 235,933 damage per Dragonstrike. This is nothing short of epic in my opinion, barely living up to the epicness of the name of this technique. Of course, melting Diluc's damage is far better and far more pragmatic, but it's certainly not as epically named as Sunfire Dragonstriking. Alright, so what is my final verdict on Candace? Well, I need a new term for all these characters that MiHoYo has been putting out recently. I'm gonna call it the Kuki syndrome. Kuki was a character released before her time with no real role or purpose that was only finally actualized many patches later with Dendra's release. Candace feels very similar to that. Sure, she can be shoehorned in as a support for characters like Ayato, but you're mainly doing that because you like Candace and not because she's better than other options like Xingqiu, Yelan, or Yunjin. Seriously, there's some really tough competition for Candace right now for those roles. Her current ability to infuse Hydro on melee characters is fun and unique, like we saw with the Sunfire Dragonstrike, but is far from being fully actualized in terms of its potential. Perhaps one day we'll get a Shenhe-like buffer for Hydro, but we'll have to wait and see. Oh, and if you're going to use her as a normal attack buffer, don't bother leveling her burst like I did, as at level 1 it still just gives 20% bonus damage, and the damage it does on a pure support build is negligible. As for her potential as a DPS character, well, it's really difficult to use her as such because infusing Hydro with her and vaping leads to tons of Hydro application issues, at least for a vape build. If you noticed in the clips from earlier, I had to avoid applying Pyro at the start of any of my rotations, and this can be very difficult and unrealistic. Although I do see her Constellation 1 helping with this, as you can use her burst and thus reapply Hydro a few times. Regardless, she does have some potential to do some actual damage because she is a vapeable Hydro character, and I do expect her to be better as a DPS character with more constellations, but even so, we already have some extremely good top tier Hydro DPS characters like Child and Ayato. Anyway, Candace is a fun character that opens up even more new gimmicks and playstyles, and while she appears to be suffering from the Kuki syndrome right now, I'm excited to see what miHoYo will have in mind for her in the future. Let me know what you think about Candace in the comments below. Also, I regularly make Genshin Impact videos ranging from Caesar showcases, DPS showdowns, guide videos, and more. So be sure to smash the subscribe button, as it's the best and easiest way for you to support my work. Also, don't forget to like the video and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Win to Lose, signing out.